Every second, we add $3,000 to our trillion-dollar student loan debt crisis. You know, student loan debt was the only consumer debt to increase during the Great Recession. It's now our second largest consumer debt, surpassed only by mortgage. We cannot afford to ignore the student loan debt crisis for 1 second longer. In the time we've spoken, students fell $225,000 deeper into debt.
Education is no longer the great equalizer in this country. It seems like you have to be tremendously wealthy in order to get higher education.
I think this is maybe more a symptom of of the larger problem we have, which is, I think, income inequality. And that a lot of times finance is basically used as a way to paper over these larger kind of structural issues that we have with the economy. You know, you think about any other loan that gets written, whether it's car, you know, home loan, you have to provide a high level of documentation that gives evidence that you're going to be able to pay it back. Student loans seem very different in that way,
right,
where pretty much everyone can sign up for it. And I don't want to take away the opportunity from people. So I don't think it's necessarily people's fault. I think this is just the symptom of a much larger systemic problem.
Really what this is doing is squeezing out the middle class, because obviously people who can afford to pay outright for an education, $50,000, $55,000, whatever it is now a year, they can do that. And the lower classes, it's getting worse as far as that goes. But for the families who are within the income bracket, where they are expected to pay the full amount of tuition, but that would actually put a burden on them. Those are the students who are really getting the short end of the stick.
I want to go back to something you said, which I thought was really interesting when you were talking about how easy it is to get student loans. Like, if you apply for them, you'll generally get them. Whereas with almost anything else, like if I go to buy a new Honda Civic or something, I have to prove that I have like a certain amount of income. And we know that too, the disparity between those two things is due to government. Because if I get that Honda Civic, I can go bankrupt and not have to pay it back conceivably. Right. It would be horrible for me to do so, of course, but I could. But you can't go bankrupt and get rid of your student loans, because apparently the banks have much better lobbyists than Honda does.
And obviously we all want to go to a college that has a great name because we want to be fancy pantses and say, oh my God, look, I went to this big prestigious school. But if that big prestigious school is going to give you a degree that's going to put you in $150,000 in student loan debt, is it worth it? I mean, is it so bad to choose, let's say, a less prestigious school that's still going to give you a decent education, but it's not necessarily a name brand school? Like, do you feel that people are just kind of brainwashed with this name brand school thing?
I've had clients say to me, unless my child can go to the top school, I don't see the use of spending the money at a lower tier school. It's not worth it to us in the long run. So
that's
they can go
ignorant and
to
stupid.
a Cal State school.
To a degree, the people that are hiring for jobs or something have that same sort of highly favorable impression of a name brand or something. So again, like I wouldn't argue this on the merits of the education necessarily, but I think that there is some degree of advantage.
Well, in general, it's a misnomer that the better the school, the higher the income. In some cases, that might be true if you are, say, for example, part of a fraternity, an Ivy League or something, where you just kind of have an open door. But in general, what I always tell the students that I work with is that cream rises to the top. So that no matter what happens, if you work hard and you're determined, you're always going to be successful.